My name is Foshin Ramsey. I'm with AmericanCivilDebate.com. I'm here to interview
Charlie Pease,
for
Cape Coral City Council District 5.
All right, it's good to meet you, Charlie.
Nice to meet you.
You know what? Thanks for coming on here. We've had a good time with Lori Lehman and Deborah McCormick. Very, very nice people. Just letting everybody know. So today, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Charlie Pease. I'm running for Cape Coral City Council District 5. I'd love for folks to check out more about me on my website, votecharliepease.com. I'm running because I really care about the future of this city. I think I represent the median age group with a family here in the city, and I care deeply about the future and getting the growth right. We're at a crossroads right now, and if we don't collaborate with our community, with industry partners, with stakeholders to make sure that we get that growth right and that we have sustainable growth, then we're going to be in trouble. And so I care about accountability in City Hall, holding our local government accountable for our tax dollars, making sure that we are growing in a smart way, so working together with common sense solutions for infrastructure and those sorts of things. Preserving our green spaces. I've been a leader in the community with preserving our green spaces. And just a little bit about me, I'm rooted in this community. I'm born and raised here. I'm involved in this community. I sit on multiple nonprofit 501c3 boards. You can find me at different festivals and events volunteering to raise money for scholarships for the History Museum, in support of all kinds of organizations. I was a board member for the charter schools, for the Oasis Charter Schools. And I'm also a leader in this community. So I am the director of Cape Coral Technical College, which is our only vocational center here. And so I care about workforce, and I'm somebody who understands how to get things done and working in partnership with our industry partners.
So you work at Cape Coral Technical, right?
Yeah.
Let me just say this. That place has grown so much. I've sat there and I've taken Alona to English-speaking classes, but man, I've watched it grow and grow. Mm-hmm. And it's unbelievable. It's good to see that young kids are actually going to a technical college instead of trying to go get a degree and strap themselves to a big debt. Congratulations. I'm glad to see you working there.
Yeah, thank
man.
you.
That's nice.
I've been the head of the school at Cape Coral Technical College since 2019. I'm working on an expansion right now to bring more blue-collar skilled trades training programs to our city. So we're going to be adding welding, HVAC, auto, marine service, and construction trades programs, a 30,000 square foot, $25 million facility that's going to break ground this spring. So we're really excited about that. That's been something that I've been a champion for from the beginning. We didn't have any money in the budget. We didn't have a scope for the project, and that's been something I've been working on very diligently over the past 4 to 5 years.
You can tell, I mean, from talking to the security guard, getting to wait for her downstairs and talking to him, which is such a nice guy, by the way. But it's awesome. It's just so awesome to see. I mean, we're like our own little small city, and there's a lot of kids going there, and that's just so awesome to see. So, is there anything else that you want to add?
No, like I said,
I'm truly sorry about that. Please forgive
I'd love
me.
for people to check me out and learn more about me. There's lots of videos and things about me and my positions on votecharliepease.com.
Okay, well, let's start with J.C. Park. What would you do different for J.C. Park? Would you go through with us, or would you rescind it, or how would you do this?
No, so I've advocated from the beginning to not commercialize J.C. Park. So I grew up here. I mentioned I was born and raised. My mom worked for Parks and Recreation. I had birthday parties out there. I've been to many birthday parties out there with family and friends and different activities. And J.C. Park is such a unique part of our history with the J.C.'s who helped create that park and the walkways and those sorts of things. Those trees there, the Australian pines, they haven't been an issue up until now, when it's sort of they have an excuse to rip, or they're using the trees as sort of an excuse. They have to rip them out in order to be able to put a boardwalk out there. But J.C. Park, to me, is sort of symbolic of the lack of trust that the general public has right now for the current council. So they've had a goal in mind, and yes, there have been activities to listen to people through forums and things like that, but they haven't really been listening. They've made some changes to the original plan, but what's happened with J.C. Park is they had the end in mind, and now they're getting there, and unfortunately they're going to probably put a construction fence up there in October before the new council gets in and start ripping trees out, and there won't be much that we can do other than potentially try to stop the project. But if the trees are already gone, then you're going to be in a bind as a new council. And so J.C. Park is similar to the yacht club in a way, where the community voice hasn't been listened to, and I feel like the Yacht Club Historical Ballroom. So I sit on the Cape Coral Museum of History Board of Directors, and I am I'm very passionate about the history of Cape Coral, right? And I feel like the ballroom at the Cape Coral Yacht Club was torn down. It was demolished when it didn't need to be, because they could have built around it. They could have done great things on that property, but they tore it down, even though there isn't going to be anything done there for years, because we have to find the $100+ million to do what's going to need to be done there. And they tore it down to try to prevent any future council from changing the plan to remove that building and put something new there. So I'm passionate about our history. Progress is inevitable, right? But we need to be transparent when we're having these, when we have these projects on the table. And I just feel like J.C. Park was sort of a done deal from the beginning. It's been controversial for well over a year. But for me, it's the wrong place at the wrong time right now. What needs to happen is we need to shift that $15 to $20 million over to the Cape Coral Country Club property, which is another historical property, 180 acres over off Palm Tree Boulevard, and we need to create our regional park there. And we have that opportunity. And if the current council had known over a year ago that they were going to have the Cape Coral Country Club property, the historical golf course property, only a few miles from J.C. Park, would they have actually moved forward with trying to do what they're doing at J.C. Park? And I don't believe so. And it's okay to change your mind. I've said that multiple times at council meetings and in public input. But unfortunately, they're plowing forward ahead, and it's going to be very difficult right now to stop what's happening at J.C. Park because of the timeline.
It's kind of crazy. I've lived here for almost, 11, 12, 13 years, I believe. And it's changed so much. I mean, it really has changed. I mean, when we first moved down here, there wasn't much construction. I think like in 2010 or 11, after we kind of had the housing market fail and everything else, and I don't know, it's just like I went through, like, people were doing the banks were buying, or not buying, but they were sitting there taking the properties back and all that stuff, foreclosures. And I was a realtor, and it was just crazy watching all that happen. And now you got this boom. We had a little boom, another boom, and another big boom. You know what I mean? And it's like, holy smokes. Right. And the housing market's gone up, but then it seems like it was built on false pretense. You know what I mean? Or, you know what I mean? I don't know. I think they inflated the prices a lot here. I mean, that's just me.
Yeah, so I'm a believer in supply and demand. At the end of the day, the market's going to dictate itself. But our job as a city council is to make sure that we grow in a sustainable way. We need to make sure that we get the infrastructure in place. We need to work collaboratively with our community, with our residents, with our industry partners, and make sure that we're ahead of things when it comes to traffic. So traffic, as we know, we're already up, I think in Cape Coral we're somewhere around 230, 240,000 residents.
Right.
We're projected to get out to over 400,000 residents over the next 25 years or so, right? In the next 10 years alone, we're projected to get to over 300,000 residents.
Where are they going to all live?
I can't imagine. So the city is platted for as many as 430,000. And I think a lot of the people who have been around for a long time have always thought it would get to 430,000. However, it's just like you said, it's gone through these sort of rapid growth times. During COVID, who could have projected that we would have this rapid growth? And then it's continued. And so we need right now to really work with the community. We need to work with the county. We need to work with all of our partners to make sure that we're getting the growth right, and that we're getting the infrastructure right when it comes to traffic and roadways, when it comes to stormwater, right? We're already seeing the water has nowhere to go. Now we do have, in Cape Coral, the stormwater management system is actually pretty good, but the more you build out, the less green space you have to be able to absorb that water. And so you've got to make sure you have all of your stormwater system up to date, and you got to make sure that you have the right catch basins and the right maintenance of your drainage systems and those sorts of things. And so those are challenges that we're facing. And the other thing is the water, right? Water supply and water quality. At the end of the day, the Utilities Extension Project, which we may or may not talk about here, we have to get it done, and I'm happy to talk about that. So.
Finish up. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So Utilities Extension is an interesting thing here in Cape Coral. My opinion is we have to get it done, right? Right now it's phased out through 2045, right? There are multiple phases remaining north of Pine Island Road. You're seeing some wells run dry already. People are having to re-drill their wells.
So let me ask you this though, just out of curiosity, because when we were realtors, when I got to be a realtor in about 2013, finally passed my realtor's exam, and the water, like when I worked for Century 21 and I worked for Remax and another company I won't discuss, but it's like they were only paying like $13,000 back then, and now it's almost to $40,000.
Yeah.
And then that's not even including for somebody to go and hook it up, have the electrician to come and do that.
Yeah.
Why is it? How did it get so expensive though?
Yeah, so I think unfortunately everything is crazy expensive, and the market's going to dictate that. But what we can do as council and with the staff is we can work on the procurement process, right? So every phase that they do for the utility extension is bid out. They go through the procurement bidding process.
Right.
And so what we need to do is we need to try to attract more national companies to come in and bid these projects to drive the prices down, because competition is what's going to drive the prices down. At the end of the day, the market's going to dictate itself, but we can control some of that by making sure that we're working hard to get
But in 10
good
years,
bids.
this wasn't but what, 13,000, almost 40,000. That's $27,000.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a heck of a lot of money.
And there are other options, and I will say that I wouldn't strongly advocate for certain types. So there's three options, right, for when it comes to utilities extension project. One is you just stop, which I don't think that that's a viable option, because at the end of the day, for environmental reasons with septic tanks and things like that, and for growth of our commercial businesses and tax base, and for water supply issues with the wells, we need to, and for public safety issues with fire hydrants and things like that, which are brought online with better access to water when you do the utilities extension. So you could stop, right? Unfortunately, I don't think we're in a position where we can just stop the project. The next thing is you can continue with the phased approach that we have right now through 2045. The cost is going to be dictated by what the cost is actually to the city through the bid process, right? We can work to drive that price down as a council through working with our legislators, working with different entities. So, for example, the city, kudos to them, they actually did just get about 6 months ago or so, I think, a $25 million grant through the Department of Environmental Protection. And what that grant did is it was for utilities extension, for environmental reasons. They said, here's $25 million. But just for perspective on the cost of these things, right? So all that did for one of the north sections is they were able to knock off, I believe, around $4,000 per household. So it went down from $35,000 to maybe $30,000 or $31,000. But the reality is that when someone's facing financing $35,000, that's like a new car, right? There's no difference to them between $30,000 and $35,000. Now, if they're wealthy enough that they have the money and they're going to pay it off, then of course they're like, oh yeah, I just saved $4,000 or $5,000. But we need to work diligently with our legislators to advocate for those types of grants, bigger grants.
What justifies it going up $23,000 in 10 years? There's got to be some kind of justification, because there's a lot of people.
Well, and that's where we need to work with our vendors who are bidding this, and we need to make sure that we're looking at the itemization of those things, and we need to present that to the public, because I think a lot of times what we don't do the best job of is making sure that people are truly educated on the big picture of what this truly is. And so I mentioned, continuing forward, and I do think we have to continue forward with the project, but we need to work to mitigate the price. We need to work to drive those prices down through grant funding, like I mentioned, through the procurement process, through competitive bidding as we bid out the other ones. But the other option that we should at least discuss, that you don't hear talked about much because it's probably not a realistic option, but there are certain sections of the city that had water come in first, right? So if you think about utilities extension, there's three components. There's water, there's sewer, and there's irrigation, right? The sewer goes through the middle of the road. So one of the benefits of the utilities extension project is that when they do it the right way, and they actually put in new roadways, which is much needed in many areas of our city. But the water, right, goes through the right-of-way. And so you could theoretically come in and you could do water only and keep the septic tanks. But then you're going to be having to duplicate the work when you come back to do the septic down the road. So the question is, when do you do septic? And do people really want to go through the mess of tearing everything up and then coming back through later? Because if you did water only, I don't know what the pricing would be, but it would obviously drop the assessment significantly for those homeowners.
I guess here's my thing. It checkerboards, for whatever reason. It's like they start here and then they end up over here and then going back here and coming back down. It's like, I don't know. It just seems like a lot of people when they bought, because a friend of mine bought a house up in the northwest or northeast Cape, excuse me, forgive me, and it was like I think it was like 17,000, and now it's 3 years and it's $30,000 or $40,000. It's like.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just can't. I don't know how to justify that.
I don't either. I know we're all experiencing it. I have a middle class family with a 7-year-old. The cost of groceries, the cost of everything has just skyrocketed. But again, we need to hold our vendors accountable to justifying that pricing, and then we need to be transparent about why that pricing is what it is. But our job as council is to try to drive the price down as much as possible and just put everything out on the table. And like I said, there's really 3 options. To stop, I don't think that's a viable option. We've got to get this done.
No, it needs to be. It needs to be done. I get that.
Right.
I get that wholeheartedly. I'm sorry.
We just need to work hard to actually drive the price down as much as is realistic within our control. And you know, the market's going to dictate itself to an extent, but we can also, as I mentioned, seek out ways to reduce that cost through grants like the $25 million grant that they got. And there are certainly other grant options out there, and if we pursue those aggressively, we can at least try to reduce that cost.
All right. So here's the next question. Oh, you just kind of knocked those right out of the way. Good man.
Hopefully those were the hard ones.
Right. All right. So the next question is a stipend.
Well, that's the easy one.
You're going to rescind that, right?
Yeah. So that.
Okay. I think most people I've talked to already said they're going to rescind that.
Sure. So the stipend is low-hanging fruit, right? I was there on December 13th that night. I'll never forget it. I learned about it. So December 13th was a Wednesday, a normal council meeting. They had put it on the consent agenda. I learned about it that Saturday night, I believe. I was told for the first time. And I couldn't believe that they were going to attempt to do it this way. The fact that they had no discussion about it, that they passed it essentially in the darkness of night, is really what everybody is up in arms about, right? The way to do something like that is to do it publicly with conversation. You know, I think that there may be an opportunity down the road to have a committee in place that makes a recommendation and you do a referendum vote. But a couple things related to stipend. One, I see it as low-hanging fruit. I think no matter who is elected at this point, it's going to come up in November. We're going to make the motion to end the stipend, and the stipend's going to be ended. I really believe that no matter, with the candidates that are left in the races right now, the 5 seats that are up for election, I believe that you're all but guaranteed a 5-3 or even maybe a 6-2, or if the other council members come along, who knows what the vote's going to be. But we're going to end the stipend. The next thing, though, is going to be, so I won't take the stipend. I'm definitely not going to take the stipend. But the next thing is going to be that we need to change the city charter so that no future council can change their own compensation without a referendum vote by the public. So that's going to be critical, is that we work together.
Let me ask you this, though. What you do, they think they should earn that kind of money, or whoever voted for that, they think they should earn that kind of money. But what do y'all really do? If you're a council member, what is it that y'all do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, besides you're talking to people all day long about contracts here, doing this, and y'all are all getting together and you're talking, going, okay, how are we going to do this? You know what I mean? It's like...
Yeah, well, I would say, so here's the thing. City council is a representative form of government, right? The city council and the mayor, so collectively as a body of 8, right, with all equal votes, they are responsible for setting policy, right, for land uses, and for setting the budget, and then creating the vision, right? We are in a council manager form of government. So the city manager's